Hey, everybody. We are going to talk about a company that makes one of my favorite products, Sirius XM. I listen to it in my car all the time. Before we dive in, Rick Munars is joining me. Check out the link you see on your screen, fool.com/Frankel. You get the top 10 stocks to buy from my sponsor, The Motley Fool. It's the best way to support this work we're doing on YouTube. Again, fool.com/Frankel. So, Rick, Sirius XM, I have kind of a love-hate relationship with the stock because it's one of my biggest investment regrets is missing out on it. Um, I got my first Sirius XM radio right around the time of the financial crisis. I want to say '08, and at the time the stock was trading for 9 cents a share. 9 cents. The reason being, that people didn't believe the product at the time. It was just getting ramped up, things like that. People thought that Sirius XM was charging for something you could get for free that was just as good. AM and FM radio, which obviously we know now. When's the last time anyone's listened to AM and or FM radio? It does happen, but not as much. Now, fast forward a little bit, the stock it's a little over $3 a share, which sounds like kind of a penny stock, but it used to really be a penny stock. $11.7 billion market cap. I know that Warren Buffett just bought a lot of it during the second quarter. He roughly tripled Berkshire's stake to about $400 million. Not a big bet by Buffett standards, but that's still, it's almost 4% of the business. Sirius XM, in doing research for this, I realized it's now a dividend stock. I wasn't totally aware of that before. It's something you still think of as kind of like a growth company. Trades for about 10 times trailing earnings. The stock is down 40% year to date. But I know there are two sides to it. I know in a lot of ways it's not as cheap as I just made it sound with that. It is a consistently profitable business, but there are some declines. So, Rick, kind of walk us through the current state of Sirius XM and why investors might be a little pessimistic on it.
Yeah, so again, everything you mentioned about SiriusXM is true. It's a great product, but again, growth is the issue. This is a company that you're talking about 2008, 2009. Back then, yeah, that was the bottom. You could have nailed the bottom on a stock, Matt, because that was when it was basically getting ready to Liberty. No, Liberty came in later, but Sirius and XM Satellite Radio were two separate companies. Basically carving out the satellite radio market. XM got an early jump, so they were a little bigger. Then Sirius got Howard Stern on, so then it was like they almost caught up reputation-wise and valuation-wise. They merged as a 50-50 merger of equals, but regulators didn't want to create a monopoly, and understandably so, but eventually they said, uncle, and let it happen. And it was the right call because, again, SiriusXM wasn't really a monopoly because now in your car, you have so many apps, so many smartphones, either through Bluetooth or direct connections to your car. You can play your Spotify through your dashboard. Even most dashboards now have natural options for Spotify, Apple, Amazon, Google Music, YouTube Music. All these options are now there. So it is competing against a lot of, either stuff you may be already paying for or even free ad-supported services that's out there. So SiriusXM has that competition, and they are feeling the pinch. So again, I'm also a big fan of SiriusXM, of both the product and the stock. I think it's a great valuation for it. But I am fully aware that there are issues here with growth and the fact that this is a model, just like when in the early days they're saying, oh, it's going to be the end of terrestrial radio. This is the next wave. Now, satellite radio is what's being endangered, and you're seeing it happen in the numbers. So through the first half of this year, so the first 6 months of this year, it's lost 618,000. I'd have to check that up. But there's 33 million subscribers, so it's still a healthy audience. But they've lost more than 600,000 subscribers, net subscribers, over the first 6 months. And churn-wise, this is about 1.5% a month. They're losing subscribers. That's historically near the low end of it. The problem is that while they're losing current customers, they're not being able to sign up new ones, what they call the funnel of free trials. Because when you're buying a new car, it comes with a free trial of satellite radio. But a lot of people, either they already have satellite radio, or they're saying, oh, why bother with that? Because I know I have my free access through my phone. I can do something with my car. So you're seeing that contract. So again, 33 million may have been peak SiriusXM as far as subscribers. The question is what it can do. How slow can it fade away, and what it can do with it? But it's doing some amazing things with its money. If you want to get into that in the meantime, it is making the most of it's a money machine.
Yeah, so it like you just said, it's a consistently profitable business, which would have seemed crazy 10 years ago. Now it's a very profitable business. Revenue's down a little bit.
Yeah.
And I do want to get into that a little bit, like kind of what comes next, because one, I want to get your opinion on maybe what Buffett might see in the stock, because he bought it before the second quarter earnings came out, right? He bought it
Yeah.
during the second quarter.
They bought it during the second quarter. Yeah.
While before we saw what the revenue was doing and what the subscriber numbers are doing, and how is Sirius planning to put its money to, like, how do they right the ship? In other words, how do they not necessarily return the subscriber base to growth, but how do they solve that problem of the funnel?
Yeah, I mean, you can't solve the funnel in a sense that if people don't want it, again, there's always been the knock on it that it's mostly something that, that us, like just a bunch of, older, middle-aged, not older, not you older, I'm older, the young kids, when they're getting their cars, they're not as interested in SiriusXM as we were when we first got a taste of satellite radio, because it's an entirely different universe out there. So that is an issue. But you have a product where it's one of the more exciting things. Like Spotify early this summer increased their prices, and to me that's the best thing. Not that SiriusXM is going to match them, but they have a game here. They say, do we increase our prices and maybe lose subscribers but go up with the market, or do we just hold our ground here and try to catch some of the people saying, oh, paying $1, $2, $3 more for Spotify is way too much, I'm just gonna, I'll just stick to SiriusXM. Now that you can stream and you have Pandora, which is owned by SiriusXM, you can bundle that into a product and get, streaming and as well as in-car satellite radio access. All these things are happening. But again, that is one thing. And advertising, of course, is something that's been a big part of a small part of their model, but a big part of their thesis was, hey, some of our channels, not necessarily the music ones, but the podcast, the more spoken word channels do have ads, and they do have revenue sharing, or they actually own the actual ad space to sell. There is a market there to grow that. And again, they have all the money in the world, and they put it to good use. It's not just a dividend that you said you just came across. Yeah, they've been paying since 2016, and it's gone up every year. So it's actually up to yielding more than 3% now. I don't know, 3.3, 3.4% right now. So it's a healthy yield on a media stock. But they've also used that money to buy back their stock. So even though, from 2012 till now, they've gone from like 6.8 million shares down to less than 6.8 billion shares down to less than 4 billion shares outstanding now. So they've done a very good job of returning money to shareholders through buying back stock and raising the dividend. So that is there. The per share count is decreasing, so it's helping earnings per share. But again, I don't see this kind of like this key solution that will get them past the lack of subscriber growth. They need to find a way to better monetize their growth and find other ways to say, hey, we have this audience, this very attractive audience as far as demographics, because they're paying to listen to streaming radio. They're in their car long enough to justify it. What else can we sell them?
Yeah, I like the kind of the cross-selling thing. I kind of feel like anytime I hear we're starting an ad business, or we're building out our ad business, I get a little bit skeptical on that, because everybody's trying to do that right now. We saw PayPal is building out an ad business. That's a big thing. A lot of any type of media business is trying to do right now. I do think this is a great product. I do think it has staying power. I really hope they figure it out. It's a very profitable business, and they have wiggle room. Like you said, they can compete on price. They don't need to raise the prices aggressively as Spotify you mentioned, or any other streaming services, because a lot of households probably look at streaming like mine does, where it's kind of like, okay, here's our total streaming bill for the month, and we pick and choose. Like, we got rid of one streaming service recently because our entire streaming budget was getting out of control. And I feel like a lot of households do that too. So Sirius can kind of become more of a value proposition if they want to. I could definitely see them going that route. They do have great original content. What happens when Howard Stern retires is another question for another day. But would I keep Sirius XM? Then probably, but it would be more of a decision on my end. It's a really interesting stock. I'm really glad you brought it back on my radar. So thanks for the great discussion. I want to thank The Motley Fool for sponsoring this video. The Motley Fool is a company that provides investing insight and stock recommendations for investors of all skill sets and risk levels. You all know how much I love researching new stocks and trying to find the next best investment, so I'm proud to partner with The Motley Fool to bring you 10 stock picks from their popular product, Stock Advisor. Stock Advisor has beaten the market by more than 4 times. So go to fool.com/Frankel to get your 10 stock picks now. The Motley Fool Stock Advisor returns are 650% as of April 16th, 2024, and are measured against the S&P 500 returns of 148% as of April 16th, 2024.